Aren't you starving all the time? I hear that so often. People saying you must be so hungry, how little you're eating right now. I'd be starving. Well, I'm not starving, and I've developed a really cool 5-point checklist to make sure that I'm not. Is it 2021? Do I live in the UK? Have I got some money? Do I know where the shops are? And are my legs okay so I can walk to them? If I can tick all those, then no, I'm not starving. Welcome to day 19 of my 8-week fat loss journey, and in the words of Nelly, it is getting hot in here. So we're closing in on that 3-week point right now. If you've not been following, I'll put a link up to day 1 so you can check out that. In summary though, I'm just taking daily videos of my progress and every few days putting them into a video along with an update on how things are going generally. So coming up shortly, pictures from days 17, 18 and today, day 19. But first, let's talk about our problem with food. And please bear in mind, when I say our, I mean most people's. If you have an eating disorder or are medically malnourished at one end of the scale, or competing as a strength athlete on 10,000 calories a day at the other end of the scale, all of my videos on moving from average to above average are probably inappropriate for you. Unless you just like jokes and movies, in which case stick around. This week, a couple of things have happened. Firstly, having done a video a few days ago on what I eat in a day, I've had people ask, seriously, how I cope with being hungry all the time. How do you manage to delay your first meal of the day until mid-morning? How have I got the energy to even throw these videos together, let alone get down the gym and work out? And then, yesterday, here in the UK, a report was published that tried to present possible solutions to the issue of most people eating a gigantic amount of rubbish and the environmental impact of us producing a gigantic amount of rubbish for most people to eat. And there have been lots of newspaper articles on it because some of those solutions are suggested focus on things like taxing junk food, and that has all sorts of socio-economic implications that makes it very easy for left-wing and right-wing people to pick a side and bash each other over the head with it until they get bored and just go back to eating crap and getting fat, I guess. Anyway, I was sat on the bike in here last night for an hour, listening to a radio phone in on the topic, and it got me thinking, I wonder if they, by which I mean all of us, are missing the point we should be addressing first before jumping to things like taxation of salt and sugar or banning junk food advertisements when kids might be watching TV. Now, I don't have a definitive opinion on this, so feel free to comment down below with your take on it. You may well change my mind, but here is where I'm at right now. There is lots of talk of educating people on good food choices as a way of addressing issues such as massive numbers of people clinically obese, massive numbers of people with type 2 diabetes, the massive cost of those things to the health service. And naturally that education theoretically should also filter down and benefit people who are just slightly overweight, which is statistically most people. But I think there is a priorities pyramid of nutritional things you can become educated on. At the top, complex issues that the majority of people never need to really grasp, and many of them are debatable anyway. Stuff like pre or post-workout protein intake, does it matter? Is healthy fats from an avocado better than fats from an almond? What ratio of carbs to other macros? If you're in the tiny minority of people that have got all other dietary issues sorted and under control, then knock yourself out, become educated on those topics. You aren't most people. For most people to focus on those issues is the gym equivalent of doing bicep curls without ever having done a squat, a deadlift or a bench press in your life.
It's a deep burn.
Then in the middle, you have important issues that in an ideal world we would be educating people on. How much salt is too much salt? Why is fructose sugar better than processed sugar? Why is 1,000 calories of McDonald's less nutritious than 1,000 calories of something else? These are the things I'm interested in, the things I try and get my kids to be interested in, and ultimately things that if we all knew a bit more about, we would be healthier. But I wonder if it is a mistake to think that this is where Joe Average needs to focus his introduction to nutritional education. Governments, retailers, schools think it is, which is why they love food labelling in supermarkets that doesn't seem to make any difference, or why my kids' school have told them they'll get a detention if they take a chocolate bar in their packed lunch.
Well.
Yet the school has still huge numbers of overweight kids compared to when I was at school, when a chocolate bar in your packed lunch was routine. No, I think the bottom of the pyramid is what actually needs understanding by most people first, and it was the one that when I addressed made the most difference to me. It is about gaining a fundamental understanding of what we actually need to eat and how What we want to eat often has no bearing on that, because we simply consume too much of everything. It is a volume problem. Because if everybody eating 4,000 calories a day started eating 2 from McDonald's, people would not be so overweight. Yes, there would be health implications, and that can be addressed once those people are no longer morbidly obese. It's not burgers making people fat, it's lots of burgers. If people ignored every label on every product in the supermarket, but halved what they stuff in their trolley, and by extension their mouth, it would not be a bad thing. And if every school child had a Kit Kat for their lunch, but didn't have 7 more when they get home, then teachers could chill out and not send me patronising emails about the dangers of a bag of crisp from my 6'7" teenager who lives in the gym and can eat some Pringles and still be ripped just fine. So here's the 3 things that occurred to me while I'm sat on that bike last night and made me think that irrational perceptions of what is normal food volumes is the issue. Firstly, breakfast. I'm not going to go on about it too long because I've spoken about it lots of times before, but the number of people that still ask me how I cope with not having breakfast until mid-morning is staggering. Comments on here, Instagram messages, friends and family. People want to roll out of bed and into the kitchen, mouth open, like Mickey Rourke is there waiting with a strawberry. Why? They ate the night before and have literally been asleep in between. Now sometimes they'll say, but I have a really active job to go to. Do you?
I just stare at my desk.
I'm running a race on Sunday. I will still have no more than half a bagel at most before that. A 10k obstacle course, full on effort for at least an hour. I would imagine requiring more energy than most active jobs, but I don't need a giant bowl of Cocoa Pops to go and do it. I'm 220 pounds and still around 14% body fat. That's what, 30 pounds of fat? I don't live in an igloo. I don't need it for warmth. Some of that fat can go on energy. That is what it is for. In reality, most people doing most jobs expend very little energy between waking up and 11 AM, so most people could quite easily consume very little energy until the middle of the day and still be confident they won't pass out at work. Second, and this was a revelation to me, portion size. This stuff sounds so basic, yet it is so warped in our perception of what's normal. When we do eat, we eat too much. I got into the habit with evening meals, for example, of going back for seconds. Jen would make big portions of food so we could have leftovers the following day. But instead, I'd often have seconds or thirds. Suddenly a 700 calorie meal becomes a 1400 calorie meal or a 2000 calorie meal. Do that 5 times a week and there is an easy 5, 6 or 7,000 extra calories. And it could be the healthiest meal in the world. 7,000 extra calories is £2 of fat a week, every week from one meal time. You would not dream of feeding your dog, see him clear his bowl and give him another meal. He'd eat it, but he wouldn't need it, so he doesn't get it. Feed yourself like you feed your pet. Sensible sized portions, no seconds. And don't even get me started on desserts. Who invented desserts? Full up, doesn't matter, have a load of sugar and junk on top for no reason. If you just take a moment before your meal and look at your plate and consider what you have there, we'd all be so much healthier. How can it make any sense to eat all day from first thing in the morning with an office job, no exercise, come home and sit down to a huge plate of food? It's filling your car with fuel when you haven't driven anywhere and wondering why you have petrol all over the driveway. And third, talking of needs, on the radio last night, a guy phones into the show I was listening to explain what he thought the problem was. On a Tuesday, he goes to play tennis at his local sports centre. When he finishes, he's hungry, but it takes him 20 minutes to get home. So he needs something to eat at the sports centre, but there's nothing there. So he goes to the service station next door and they only sell rubbish. So he has to buy that. So him and the radio presenter spend 10 minutes talking about the perils of junk food being easily obtainable when you're out and about. Here's an idea. Go home, wait 20 minutes before eating. And if you're completely useless and unable to handle such extreme hardship, make yourself a healthier snack to take with you. You don't need to go and buy rubbish. You want to. What it all comes down to is asking yourself before you put stuff in your mouth, do I need this or do I want it? And if I just want it, is the price of consuming it acceptable? We do it with other stuff. Shopping nowadays is a permanent balance of want and need because you can jump on Amazon and get anything. If you don't keep an eye on that ability for want to take over, you'd have a house full of crap and your family would point it out, as would your bank account. But with our bodies, no one points it out. It's just accepted as okay and normal to have a belly that is the equivalent of a room in your house you can't get into because it's full of Amazon boxes. Now, it may well be a cheat day or a special occasion or a one-off treat. Clearly, eat what you want on occasion, just like we buy what we want sometimes. But given the statistics, too many people are eating based on what they want all the time. And as a result, we have developed a completely warped sense of what an appropriate amount of food is. We look at a sensible sized bowl of food and think it looks tiny. We hear somebody not having food until 11 a.m. and wonder, how do they not end up in hospital through malnutrition in the meantime? Somebody is 20 minutes from home and all they can think about is how do they seek out sugar in the meantime. If you took a 10,000-year-old hunter-gatherer and had them follow you around for a day, I am sure they would spend a large amount of time thinking, why on earth are you eating huge amounts of food non-stop? And let me drive this car because this stuff looks awesome. And just a point to finish on, because I know it will crop up. People will highlight the genuine issue of people going on very restrictive diets, failing as a result and returning to fat normal. They will cite that as an example of how you can eat too little and that you should avoid that, and that's why they daren't listen to any of this. Restrictive diets fail, they will say. Of course you can eat too little, and stupidly restrictive, ill-considered diets do fail. The problem is that people go from their normal, which is, as I've described, a complete lack of thought over what they consume, from portion size to snacking to excessive cheat meals, to a ridiculously low volume of food, completely bypassing the point they should have settled on, which is true, appropriate amounts that they could eat permanently. An actual sustainable diet. Not a diet in the sense of the word that it is now used to describe a short-term exercise in futility. Diet as in that is what they just eat routinely. But it needs some resetting on what is normal. When I first worked out how much supper I could scoop into a bowl and have it stay under 800 calories using MyFitnessPal app, I thought it was a minuscule amount, and no seconds either. Now it's just a normal sized bowl of food. So yes, truly eating too little is as dumb as eating too much. So if we just educated ourselves on what's really needed, we might settle in the middle. How? Don't know, but maybe stuff like teaching kids that the average UK roast dinner in the 70s when I was a kid was 1,000 calories and today it's 2,000 calories before you dive in for seconds. Teach them about what a body needs and what it does with surplus, and that excess is inappropriate, it's unrequired, and it will ultimately compound up and make you fat and sick. Because if they grow up thinking that what we currently eat is normal, then not letting them have that 106 calorie Kit Kat in their lunchbox will not solve anything. Okay, calm. Last 3 days' pictures. Next video will be after my race on Sunday, which I'm doing with, talking of things of reduced volume, my tiny new camera, my Insta360 Go 2. Like and subscribe for notifications on when that is up, and I will see you guys next time.